If there was already people here on Earth before the Anunnaki came to Earth, then who were the people here and where did they come from? So, if you look into ancient texts and you look into ancient artifacts, specifically the Ubaid artifacts, U-B-A-I-D, right? These people were here long before the Anunnaki even arrived on Earth. When the Anunnaki arrived here, that culture was already here. We know this because the buildings and structures that they lived in, even though they are all worn down, the walls and roofs are missing, we can see traces and remnants of their civilization, and we found hundreds of their statuettes, which depicted them as a monarchy type of a structure and civilization. And they had ranking in between their queen or king, whatever they called it, because we can tell by the depictions of them with these statuettes, with the types of clothing, when they had the staff in their hand, when they had the royal type of a loincloth versus some of them actually having a short cloth and some actually just kind of similar to how it was in ancient Egypt. I mean, the people who weren't kings and kings. You gotta remember, there's only one king and one queen at a time, and the poor people in ancient Egypt walked around naked. That's a fact. And so this culture seemed to have had that same thing. Maybe they influenced that type of a structure, that political structure, or whatever you want to call it, economic structure, on other civilizations around them. But when the Anunnaki arrived here, the reason why we know people were here is because in the Epic of Atrahasis and in the Enuma Elish, Yankee says, you know what, I got an idea. I'm a master geneticist. There is an existing being on this planet. That was our cousin. That cousin that we had here was not sapien like we are, but wasn't a bipedal bilateral hominid and directly related to us. And they began genetically tinkering. They said, we're going to add our essence to it and have it bear the load. And an agreement was done and approved. And that's when they began the genetic tinkering of our cousins, and then genetically created the Homo sapiens sapien. They didn't make us from dust. The people were already here. And those people, to answer the last part of your question, where they came from. Those people came from other planets, most likely out of the Pleiadian star system. When you look into the ancient texts, when you go and do what I did, go and talk to the ancient sages and wisdom keepers, the Aboriginal elders, the Lakota tribe in the Americas, they all have the same story. I mean the same exact story, that they were seeded on this planet in ancient times by, in the Lakota case, and Hopi, Star Brothers. In the Aboriginal case, they were seeded on this planet by Pleiadians. And that's their exact verbal, handed down history, word for word. But they weren't the only ones. So what you begin to realize is that Earth was an abandoned seed colony at one point. That's what this planet was, an abandoned seed colony. The Anunnaki arrived at a time where we were at a low level in terms of understanding spirituality, maybe what might have been good, but technologically and just our grasp on reality and who we were and the power that was in us was really low, as they came and completely dominated us and took us over and tricked us into believing that they were gods. They masqueraded as gods on this planet, even though they weren't. Some of them didn't, but the majority of them did. And they got us to do the work for them. And we did it gratefully and happily because we thought it was in honor of the gods. And so that answers your question there.